Hello, social studies students. So we are going to go over how to write a source interpretation or assignment 2 in social studies. So for this type of assignment, you will have 3 sources that you are going to analyze, as well as connect your own opinion to these sources. So let's take a look at what it is. So it's a written response assignment in which, like I said before, you must interpret 3 sources and give your own opinion. Think of it as there are 2 parts to the question. So part 1 is the first question you're going to see, and this is going to ask you about how the source connects to the role of globalization if you're in grade 10, nationalism in grade 11, or the role of the individual or government in grade 12. Now for part 2, it's going to ask you what you think of these things. So you must answer both of these questions, and if you do not answer both of them, you will fail. So make sure you answer the first one and connect to the sources, and the second one, and you will be fine. So now let's take a look at what it looks like. So here is an example taken from your diploma that you'll write in grade 12. So as you can see here, there are 3 sources. You'll see those first, and it's a good idea maybe just to jot down some notes on what you think they mean. It will help you out. Now, second, you'll see the questions here. So, like I said, first you will be given all 3 sources, and at least one will be satirical. And second, you will be given your assignment instructions. And like I said before, there are 2 questions, and both must be answered. So let's take a closer look at the questions. So the first question, what does each of the 3 sources presented communicate about the role of government in society? These will be your first 3 paragraphs in which you interpret each individual source. Now, the second question, considering the sources presented, what do you think about the role of government in society? This is your opinion. So you'll be writing a paragraph on what you think and connecting your opinion back to the 3 sources. Let's take a closer look at what is expected of you of the first question. So in the example we're looking at, the question is, what do each of the 3 sources presented communicate about the role of government in society? So for each source, you must explain what is happening in the source. So what do you see? Explain the main message of the source. So what do you think this source is trying to tell you? You want to connect to social studies terminology, current events, and your lessons. So people, places, dates. And like I said, you need to connect back to that question. So how does the source relate back to the role of government in society? What is it saying about the role of government in society? So you must do this for all 3 sources. Each source should be 1 paragraph themselves. If you answer all these questions for each source, you are looking good. Now here is an example of what you might see as a source. So let's take a closer look at this one. So what do you see? So I see an American man because of the stripes and the stars on his pants and his hat. Maybe a politician cutting a ribbon with the word taxes on it. There's an anvil over his head with the word debt on it. And it looks like if he cuts those taxes, the debt is going to fall down on him and probably hurt him. So that's what I see. So what does it mean? So perhaps this is talking about the American society and its economy. So to keep people and private businesses happy, perhaps they want to cut taxes. But if they cut taxes, that means American debt is going to go up, and the economy will go into debt, and that's no good. Now, the second part is you need to relate it to current events or things you've learned. So we could relate this source to the 2008 financial crisis. The US government cut its taxes to big businesses. Big businesses lowered their interest rates for those who were applying for mortgages. In the end, people couldn't afford their homes, and the American economy went into debt. And so that's how you're going to try and interpret these sources. Let's go on. So now let's take a look at the second question. So in the example we looked at, the second question is, considering the sources presented, what do you think should be the role of government in society? So a good idea is, before you start to answer this, you take a look at your sources and what they are saying about society. Then you can come up with your own opinion. So this is an opinion question, so please use the word I. I think the government should have more control over American business. I think the government should have a more laissez-faire attitude towards business. So use those words. You must give examples and evidence for your answer. So for example, if you do think the government should have more say in what happens in big businesses, tell me why with evidence. Connect to what you have learned. You must link your opinion to at least one source. However, it is safest to link it to all three. So if you find yourself stuck when you're writing these and you can only link it to one, do that. But if you can link it to all three, that is best. And lastly, expand and relate your opinion to Canada. So why would we want more government intervention in our society in Canada? Now let's take a look at the format. So there's a couple you can use. Format 1 is the easiest, and it is the diploma marker's favorite. So you can do a mini intro or mini conclusion if you want, but it's not necessary. Basically, your paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 interpret all those three sources like we talked about and answer those questions. And then in paragraph 4, that's your opinion. So you have 4 paragraphs. It's the easiest. I recommend you do this one. However, if you want to do the next one, format 2, you can. So basically, you put the sources and your opinion into one paragraph. So paragraph 1 will communicate about the role of government or individualship in society based on source number 1, and then what you think it should be. And you do that the same for paragraph 1, source 1, 2, and 3, and you can do a mini conclusion if you want. Okay, so a few tips that you need to remember when writing these. Answer both questions. If you don't, you will fail. Interpret every source. If you don't, you will fail. Remember for each source to explain what's happening, explain the purpose, and relate back to your social studies lessons. For that last question, make sure to give reasons for what you think. It's great if you have an opinion, but you need to answer why. And lastly, make sure you proofread when you're done, because you will be marked on spelling and grammar. Lastly, this is your rubric. Be sure that you familiarize yourself with it. You can find it on the course homepage. Exploration and analysis marks your interpretation to the sources. Defense and position marks your opinion, and communication is that spelling, grammar, and use of social studies language. I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, please contact me. You can reach me at 780-864-1615 or email me at heatherdunsworth@pwsd76.ab.ca.